everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I'm really excited to welcome our speakers, Jesse Mallory, Director of Professional Services with Meriplex, and Jackson Williams, Systems Administrator with Meriplex. I'm now going to kick it off to Jesse to get us started.
Great. Thanks, Macy. Welcome, everyone. Today, I'm Jesse Mallory, the Director of Professional Services at Meriplex. Today, we're going to be talking about Office 365, so I'm going to turn it over to Jackson.
Hi there, my name is Jackson. I'm a Systems Administrator here at Meriplex, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about demystifying Microsoft 365. So today we're going to be talking about what is Microsoft 365 and what it can do for your business and some of the use cases for the Microsoft 365 offerings. At the end of this, we'll touch upon a few points that we've made across the video.
Great. So I asked the question, how many office space references do I get? And my answer was 1. So here we go. Jackson, I'm going to need you to explain the difference. That would be great.
Well, the difference between Microsoft 365 and Office 365 is that Microsoft 365 is a conglomeration of all of Microsoft's productivity offerings that they have. And it actually includes Microsoft Office 365. It used to be just called Microsoft Office 365, and now they have moved it into Microsoft 365 as part of the overall suite of products that they offer. So they have a bunch of different plans. As you can see here, this is straight from Microsoft's website. They have Business Basic, Business Standard, Business Premium, and Microsoft 365 apps.
Yeah, that's a lot. So it's different plans to suit your different business needs. So Jackson, can you take us through these different plans, please?
Yeah, sure. So we're going to first start with the apps and Business Basic. Apps is exactly what it says it is, just your basic word processing apps, including OneDrive, Outlook, Word, Excel, the things you'd expect when you purchase the Office suite. And then the Business Basic is just the exchange. It's the communication aspect of Microsoft 365. So it's your Teams, it's your Outlook, it's your SharePoint, it's your OneDrive. So then we move on to Business Standard, which is everything that is Business Basic and 365 apps, just put together in one package. And you also gain Publisher and Access for the desktop apps on your PC. And then we move on to pretty much the top end of what they offer, which is everything that was Business Basic plus some additions.
Yeah, so Jackson, I noticed that, the basic productivity apps are here, but there's a lot of apps that seem to be new, Intune, Azure Information Protection, things like this. Can you talk us through these and explain what these are and, what the difference is for the old apps that everyone knows about?
Yeah, so the Business Premium package is what most people probably will need. It allows you to build up a hybrid environment between your on-prem Active Directory and your cloud-based Microsoft 365. Intune is a mobile device management platform that is offered by Microsoft. It allows you to remotely manage your laptops and even desktops, iPads, iPhones, through a single web portal.
Yeah, and you've had some experience with this lately for a couple of our customers. So
yes, we've been using Autopilot, which is part of Intune, to remotely deploy laptops overseas. And once you get the process going, it's actually pretty seamless. Along with that, you get the Azure Information Protection, which allows you to classify data internally and externally. So that way you can keep PII and other information from being accidentally sent to people that it shouldn't be. It's great for compliance. It's great for just keeping track of your data, and you can dictate the tags as necessary.
Okay.
And then you have conditional access, which allows you to set up groups based upon OUs or whatever you want to set that allow you to tell who has access to what information, what pieces of Office and Microsoft 365. It makes it easier to control who has access to what information and what bits and pieces they have. And the last bit is Microsoft Virtual Desktop. That is essentially a terminal server in the cloud. You can spin up a Windows 10 box and your users can access it without having to have the on-prem infrastructure for it.
Got it. Thank you.
So
is there any seat limitations to this?
Yeah, so with all these products, the maximum amount you can have by Microsoft standards is 300 users.
Okay.
Once you get to 300 users, they expect you to migrate to their enterprise platform, which is everything that we've talked about here. And then you gain some added security controls and compliance capabilities that are usually used for larger enterprises. So you have Microsoft 365 E3, Microsoft 365 E5, and then F3. So E3 is exactly what Business Premium offered, plus all the security and compliance stuff. And then E5 is everything that E3 had, plus a bunch more security and analytics. And then F3 is pretty much the frontline business workers. It's just Outlook, Word, and Exchange.
Got it. So much more geared toward the enterprise environment.
Yes, it goes a lot more in depth with what enterprises require these days.
Got it. Perfect. So yeah, and this is the question we're getting asked the most right now is why would we go this route over an on-premise solution? So Jackson, can you kind of touch on these points, why someone would want to go Microsoft 365 versus, keeping my on-prem infrastructure?
Well, at this point in time, the latest version of Exchange is Microsoft Exchange 2019.
Okay.
Unless Microsoft changes their ways, in 2025, it will reach end of support. So if you're pondering upgrading your on-prem Exchange environment, whatever money you spend and time you spend upgrading that environment isn't going to have a long-term investment, because in 2025, you're going to be expected to migrate to Office 365 anyway. So instead of having to worry about taking your on-prem 2013 environment to 2019 and stepping it, you can just do one single migration.
365 later. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Got it.
So do one upgrade now instead of two upgrades now and then a migration later. So you just do one migration. A migration is a pretty hefty task. It's a lot of little details because you don't want to miss anything. So when you do a migration, it's still going to be an intensive task, but you're future-proof for the, you're not going to have to worry about upgrading it again in the future. Do it once and you're done.
Understand. So then Microsoft's the one doing most of the background work for you instead of your own IT team completing the migrations and maintenance and upgrades.
Exactly. So you don't have the added overhead of worrying about SSL certs or worrying about, do I have enough storage space? Do I have enough bandwidth? Is my colo needing me to move? You don't have to worry about those outages that you would see when you run it on your own. And even at this point, you could still run a hybrid environment using the Business Premium options that would allow you to keep your on-prem for a significant amount of time till Microsoft won't let you anymore.
Got it.
So that way you could still have your on-prem environment and still use it for the things you need and have the cloud, which makes everything a lot easier to manage.
Yeah, not to mention your own maintenance windows for your IT staff.
Exactly. It's all Microsoft, and they can take care of it. They have to update it. It's all on them, and it's a lot easier for you.
Great.
So we had a question come in. Can a customer be too small for Office 365? The answer is no. Their options are great at any level of business, from 2 to 5 users all the way to 300 and plus users. You have to find the right package that suits your needs. I would really recommend the Business Premium for most cases, especially if you have an existing Active Directory environment, because it allows you to get into the hybrid solutions that allow your computers to exist in both Azure Active Directory and on-prem Active Directory.
Got it.
Another question came in, can users skip an upgrade of Microsoft 365? I don't think that would be possible. Microsoft pretty much handles all those. But that's a really good question that I would have to research more to know for sure on.
Yeah. Let's get that as a takeaway, and we'll get back on this video with that.
Yeah. So, it's talking about future proofing on that same note. You'll never have to worry about, is my Exchange server patched? Do I have the right firewall holes? Because it's all managed by Microsoft, and you just point your MX records straight to them.
Great. Yeah, and then you have the upfront knowledge of knowing what the licenses cost.
Exactly.
So scalability options should be, easier to go up in business or down in business, correct?
Yeah, exactly. So if you have a sudden surge in growth and you need more Exchange licenses, you just hop on, talk to your VAR or order it, and apply those licenses to those users, and they're up and running instantly. And if you unfortunately have to downsize, well, you just stop paying for those licenses or move them from the active users, and there you go. You're no longer having to worry about over provisioned and under provisioned. You're always perfectly provisioned as long as you purchase the correct amount of licenses.
Great.
Choose. So if you choose the wrong plan, you can easily migrate plans back and forth. If you have a user who is transitioning to, let's say, part-time and they don't need a full-on business premium package anymore, you can downgrade them to business premium or business basic, or even just to the apps or the business standard. So it's easy to migrate back and forth between your different lines items of packages. So that way it's saving you money.
All right, so another question coming in.
I'm a medium-sized business with 200 plus employees. Well, that can be dictated by if you have an existing on-prem environment or not. With 200 users, you probably already have an on-prem environment, and you're definitely going to want the business premium. That allows you better managing, allows you the information protection, and helps secure your business against outside threats a little bit better than the other options.
Great. One more.
How long will I be able to continue with my on-prem solution? Well, that's a really good question, and that's up to the fine folks at Microsoft to give us an answer on. Right now, if you upgrade to 2019, you'll have support all the way to 2025. Whether they extend that support window or not, I don't know. That's completely up to them, but you should at least have that on-prem environment to 2025.
Yeah, that was a great question.
You can do monthly billing or annual billing. I do believe annual billing is the way to go. That way you have, as long as you have your basic amount of users, you'll know. And then if you need to add or remove, you can do monthly or annual from there.
And then that's by user count, correct, Jacqueline?
By user count, that's by seat. It's however much Microsoft says per seat. Oh, another question. Is this something the average customer can manage during a service provider? Help me with my account. With the initial setup, it would be best to have a service provider help you get everything set up correctly, because there's a lot of little options in there that you could miss that necessarily wouldn't make it unusable, but would limit the use of the full package. There's a lot in Microsoft 365 offerings, and there's a lot that if you don't know about it, you'll never know it even exists. So for the initial setup, it's definitely great to have a service provider, and then to help your IT staff, having a service provider manage it is also a good thing to do. That way you just don't have to worry about provisioning users, password resets, any changes. Your service provider can help you with that.
That's another great question.
It really is. Microsoft is a lot to offer. I mean, we saw those slides earlier. That just barely touches the surface of what they offer in these packages.
Perfect. You want to go back to the slide with the offerings on it?
Yeah, sure. We can pop back here a few. Let me.
Seems a lot of questions revolving around that, so.
Yeah, let's pop back a few here. Yeah, so that's the offerings they currently have for the business plans. not necessarily the E3 plans. We're really not touching on those today because those are more enterprise level of offering.
Real quick, for the people that don't know, Microsoft 365 Business Basic, what's the difference there between Microsoft 365 apps? I think that'll be a common question from the top item and the bottom.
Yeah, so Business Basic is just, I would classify it as purely communications. It's your Outlook, it's your Exchange license, Teams, and SharePoint. So basic communications for your employees. Okay. And 365 apps is just the productivity suite: Word, Excel, PowerPoint, I do believe it comes with Outlook. Yeah, this is Outlook, Access, and Publisher.
Great.
So basically, when you combine those two together, that's when you get to business standard. Understood. So business, how many? Have to buy a new user license. Good question. Microsoft will allow you to install up to 5 installs on one user license. So one user can have it on their work laptop, their work desktop, an iPad, even a personal device if they so choose to.
Yeah, 5 different devices, great.
Yep, and do also realize that all of the productivity apps also have web-based versions of those that you can access from anywhere with an internet connection.
Great. All right, another question. Is this something I can purchase through you guys and help with? Absolutely. So we have a dedicated professional services team, Jackson, many others that are, experts in this area. So you can reach out to us on our website and get the ball rolling, and we'd love to help.
Why would I need the security piece of Microsoft 365 and Business Premium? Well, if you're dealing with personally identifiable information or credit cards or anything like that, you don't want that information to actually accidentally get sent to the wrong person. And with Azure Information Protection, you can assign tags to different documents inside of your organization. And it will be smart enough not to allow you to send an email containing credit card information or social security numbers, if you program it correctly, to the wrong person. There's also some added security features that allow you to create a hybrid environment between your on-prem Active Directory environment and your Microsoft 365 environment that will allow you to have password write back and added communication between the two platforms, ensuring that you have one single sign-on for both systems.
Yeah, another great question.
How am I also protected from spam? Well, that's an interesting point. Microsoft has an anti-spam feature built into it, but in our deployments, we have noticed that built-in spam platform isn't necessarily as good as something like Zix anti-spam. It is good if you are trying to pinch the pennies and make sure you get all the value out of all the platforms you can. But I don't really recommend doing so. I recommend go ahead and springing for something like Zix. It's just going to be added protection for your company.
Good question. All right, well, let's jump back forward, Jackson.
Sure thing. All right. So we've had a lot to talk about today and a lot of really good questions. So some of the takeaways we found today have been that Microsoft 365 has a lot of offerings to suit your business size. It scales and grows with you. Less management overhead for sure, because you don't have to worry about any of the on-prem environment if you choose to. And it's a single migration to future-proof your business.
Yeah, so takeaway number 3 here is a big one, and we're getting a lot of questions right now about this with people not in the office and, what's my upgrade path? What's the best thing to do? So, if you're leaning toward an upgrade, this may be the way to go.
For sure. I understand that there are use cases for upgrading your Exchange environment, but these days, pulling the trigger and going to a migration straight to Office 365 is going to really set your business up for the future.
Absolutely. All right.
One last question. So Chris, that's an excellent question. I can speak on that, and I could get really off into the weeds. It's a very, not necessarily complicated, it's a technical setup. Basically, to sum it up, is you install a Azure Active Directory connector on your on-prem environment, and you can tell it which OUs within your on-prem environment to sync and create some service accounts. And then using just over the internet, it establishes a secure connection to the Office 365, Microsoft 365 environment. And then once it's connected, it will start provisioning the users from that OU into your cloud environment. So what that helps with is if you provision a new user within that OU, once the sync period happens, it will provision that user into the cloud. And all you have to do is just assign a license to that user, and boom, they're ready to go. They have their Outlook, they have their Exchange, all of their Word licensing is right there. So that simplifies setting up users, that simplifies management. And then with the Azure Premium or the Business Premium, you can even enable password write back to where the user would be able to reset their password in the cloud on their own, and it writes back to their on-prem environment. Granted, you have to have some security options set up for that, some one-time passwords sent to phones and such things like that. So it's a really powerful tool. It just takes a lot of setup to get it right.
That was a great question, Chris. I hope we answered it. And if you want to speak more on that, you can reach out to us.
It seems like we have a few more questions here. We'll wait for those to pop up as we get to this here. That's a good point, Jonathan. Forget about the fact that they offer a terabyte of cloud storage through the OneDrive. I myself use it personally on my laptop here at work. It takes care of all of my documents. I don't have to worry about them. If this device were to get crushed by a truck, all of my documents are saved in my OneDrive, which is backed up to the cloud. And so if I needed those documents anywhere else, I could pull out an iPad, log into my OneDrive, and they're there too, and I can edit them right there. So it pretty much can act as a computer level backup for your users.
Yeah, that's awesome. And 1 terabyte of cloud storage is a lot.
It is a lot. It's more than most office workers will need, with the exception of those that do videography and things like that. Would this eliminate the need for a physical domain controller? Unfortunately, the answer is no and yes at the same time. It really depends on your use case, your future planning, and just other aspects of it. A lot of programs talk to Active Directory, and if you need something that talks over LDAP, network security appliance, or anything like that, you can't do that with Microsoft 365. So in most cases, having a physical domain controller is still recommended, especially for local sign-on. I think we have one more. Would I need to buy a new user license for group mail? So there are group mailboxes, shared mailboxes within Microsoft 365. It has an Exchange Admin Center, just like you're used to seeing within Exchange. And you can provision shared mailboxes just like you would in Exchange. Now, if you have a single mailbox that is shared amongst many different users, that's not the shared mailbox, is an account that's shared, then you would need a license for that. But at that point, you could just get the Business Basic, which has just the Exchange and communications licensing that you need.
Perfect.
And one last question. Email archiving. So that is something that is offered as a separate line item from Microsoft. You have 50 gigs of storage space per mailbox right now. I'm sure that will grow in the future. But if you need long-term archiving, that is something else that Microsoft offers that you assign per user.
All right. Well, thanks everyone so much for joining us today. If you'd like to learn any more about this or talk with myself or Jackson or our team, you can reach out to us on our website. We'd love to help you out. Thanks everyone again, and we'll talk to you later.